only to say that it continues to disrespect the black women that have permeated in American society since they first brought us here in 1619.
Well, this morning we are hearing from the attorney of Breonna Taylor's family. They are demanding justice after no charges are filed against officers in her death.
Justice for Breonna Taylor!
Justice for Breonna Taylor!
Following the grand jury decision, protests started out across the United States, including here in Spokane.
The one officer indicted in the case was indicted for wanton endangerment, a term many of us have never heard of until now. Coming up, we explain what it means.
And rain is here. We definitely saw it overnight into this morning. We're going to tell you exactly how long it's here to stay. Also, some of the power outages in your area.
Up with KREM begins now.
On your Thursday, big news from last night as some elementary schools are now set to return to school as early as next month. That decision was made during a school board meeting last night, and this morning we want to hear reaction from you. What do you think of this decision? Of course, we have heard a number of people and opinions weighing in. Some people saying it's about time. Yes, let's do it. The sooner the better. Of course, some people also saying kids aren't meant to be guinea pigs. I'm confused. Why is this happening now? Of course, we want to hear from you. Continue to weigh in all morning long by texting us at 509-448-2000. We would love to continue sharing your perspectives, as this is obviously a new situation for so many parents that might be waking up, Jen, just learning about this the first time.
Yeah, much like when you went to bed, you probably didn't know this, of course, unless you were watching really late last night. So yeah, this is new information for many parents up early this morning, getting those kids ready for school. So it sounds like things are slowly trending back to normal, but of course we have to wait until 2 weeks till we see that happen.
Absolutely, and also we do want to hear from you. Go ahead and text us your questions, comments, or concerns to 509-448-2000 and let us know what your situation is, and we'll work to answer some of those questions throughout the morning.
Of course, another situation we're all watching, and something else that happened overnight, was a little bit of rain working its way through our area. So let's check in with Dana Marie Nickel for what else is on the way. Dana Marie?
That's right. Good morning. Fall weather is officially here. If you love that smell of fresh rain on the pavement, you got it. It's here this morning. You know what? Spokane is going to see a little bit of a relief. Here's what was going on the last 5 hours. You can see that weather system has passed over Spokane. So we're seeing partly cloudy conditions and maybe some scattered showers here in the afternoon in northern Washington and in the Sandpoint area. For your current wind speeds, what brought that weather system also came high wind speeds and cool temperatures. 16 mile per hour. Those are sustained winds in Spokane and Deer Park, 15 in Pullman, 9 in Omak, and 16 in Pomeroy. Also, those wind gusts are pretty high. Here's a look at your hour by hour in Spokane. Definitely cooler than what we've seen over the past couple of days. 64 degrees for your high, partly cloudy conditions, and also 13 miles per hour sustained winds. So those high winds are staying throughout the rest of the day. For your 3-day forecast, so you see rain all the way through Saturday. So scattered showers through the inland northwest are definitely a possibility. I'm going to be breaking down on the future tracker so you can see exactly where that rain is expected to head and stay in your area. I'll send it over to you.
Dana Marie, thank you so much. 6:33 now this morning. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is lying in repose at the Supreme Court. We are taking a live look this morning from the nation's capital. Today, the public will be allowed to pay their respects to the late justice. Yesterday, Chief Justice John Roberts spoke about Justice Ginsburg.
She was not an opera star, but she found her stage right behind me in our courtroom. There she won famous victories that helped move our nation closer to equal justice under law.
Mourners paid their respects at the steps of the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, President Trump is expected to name a nominee to fill that vacant SCOTUS seat on Saturday.
This is a tragedy. The response is that the grand jury was given all of the evidence, presented all of the information, and ultimately made the determination that Detective Hankinson was the one to be indicted.
Well, that was the Kentucky Attorney General on the decision in the Breonna Taylor case. Yesterday, a grand jury determined officers acted lawfully when they shot and killed the 27-year-old in March. Now, this was during a botched raid. The grand jury found the officers were justified in their use of deadly force. That's because during the raid, authorities say Taylor's boyfriend shot at officers first. Now, this means there are no charges in direct relation to her killing. However, the grand jury did indict a former officer for firing his weapon into her neighbor's home. Former officer Brett Hankinson is charged with 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment.
Now, this morning, we also want to keep you updated on a few other key points that we have learned about the night Breonna Taylor was killed. Since there was a lack of video or body camera footage from the incident, a special investigation is focused on crime scene pictures, along with ballistics, 911, and police radio recordings, along with several interviews, all to help piece together what happened.
The Kentucky Attorney General's office and the FBI conducted independent investigations, and each presented their findings to the grand jury. The jury then decided who was charged with what. So here are the 3 officers involved. On the left is Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly. He was the only officer who actually entered the apartment. He was shot in the leg by Taylor's boyfriend, who fired once. He told investigators he thought the officers were intruders.
Hankinson reportedly fired his weapon 10 times that night, including from an outside of a sliding glass door and through a bedroom window. Some bullets reportedly traveled into a neighbor's apartment, as we mentioned, and Hankinson is also the only officer facing charges. On the right is Detective Miles Cosgrove. It was his bullet that the FBI says killed Breonna Taylor. Here's the reaction from her family about the grand jury's decision.
I've been through this many a times, unfortunately, with police-involved shootings in Metro Louisville, and usually it's the same outcome, that the families have these expectations, rightfully so, to get fairness, and then it falls short for them.
Taylor's family says they are heartbroken by the decision. They canceled a press conference shortly after it was announced. However, their lawyer spoke on their behalf.
Only to say that it continues to disrespect the black women that have permeated in American society since they first brought us here in 1619.
The attorney continued, this is another sign we need a system-wide change to law enforcement.
Protests erupted last night in cities all over the country. Washington, D.C., New York, Louisville, Seattle, and Portland held some of the largest protest turnouts. There was also a gathering right here in Spokane as well.
Justice for Breonna Taylor!
Justice for Breonna Taylor!
That's about 24 demonstrators coming to Riverfront Park last night just around 7 p.m., carrying signs and chanting Black Lives Matter and Justice for Breonna Taylor. Protesters went on several small marches around the park, and a handful of police officers on bicycles followed them from a distance.
Move back!
Seattle police arrested at least 7 people overnight during last night's protest, and police say that multiple fires were set, explosives were thrown at officers, and there was property damage throughout downtown Seattle. And a riot was declared in Portland last night. The crowd was told to vacate or face tear gas, other crowd control agents, or arrest. Protests in Portland have been going on now for months, with frequent clashes between demonstrators and police, as well as state and federal agents.
At First and Broadway, shots rang out and 2 of our officers were shot. Both officers are currently undergoing treatment at University Hospital. One is in alert and stable. The other officer is currently undergoing surgery and stable. We do have 1 suspect in custody.
It's unclear this morning if those reported shots you just heard of were fired in connection with the protests, but nearly 100 other protesters were arrested last night as well.
All right, taking a look at what's trending now. After Officer Hankinson was charged, a lot of people are now asking, what was he actually charged with? Wanton endangerment isn't a charge that we often hear, so let's start with the specific charge. Former Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson was indicted on 3 counts of wanton endangerment which is a Class D felony in Kentucky. So to be clear, the charges are not related to Breonna Taylor's death. Those are felony charges that could mean up to 5 years in prison for each charge. That means he could face a maximum of 15 years in prison. The grand jury indicted Hankinson for firing several shots into a neighboring apartment where 3 people live, including a pregnant woman and a child, endangering their lives. So here's what it means in the state of Kentucky. A person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifferences to the value of human life, he wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. Right now, Hankinson is out on bond. Between booking and posting bond, Hankinson spent about 30 minutes in the Shelby County Detention Center yesterday afternoon. The jail didn't say who paid the bond. All right, we'll send things over now to Dana Marie McNichol.
All right, thank you, Tim, so much for that update. We're taking a look at rain. It's on the way. It's here. Also, partly cloudy conditions over Spokane right now. When is it going to subside? I'll have that all next coming up.